What's going on YouTube, Gary here, gzduels, bringing you guys a full match between my Fire Fists and my opponent who's using Dino-Rabbits. And so I start off with a pretty good hand and I use Rabbit. He had two Gene Warp Werewolves and of course go for the standard play, which is Tiger King, and then using Tiger King's effect, search for Tenki, and then using Tenki's effect to add that final plus, which is the bear, to my hand. And I thought about adding something else, but you know, 3 bears in the hand is pretty good. So I decided to set all my back row because I do have Starlight Road, and so I'm not afraid of him at all. And it's my opponent's turn. My opponent activates Tour Guide. I'm like, okay, cool. So he's probably going for something like Zamain's, or maybe even something more adventurous like a Leviathan to try to run over my Tiger King. But he goes for Levier, and I'm like, okay, hold on, you're playing Dino-Rabbits, I can't let you have that Levier. So I chain Bottomless Trap Hole, and he chains Book of Moon. So I'm like, okay, cool, you must really want that Levier, but I'm just gonna destroy by battle. And then he plays the most interesting tech card I've ever seen in Dino-Rabbit players, which is, you know, that card. And he attacks over his Levier. And so it makes me kind of question what he's doing, because he knows that I just searched for bear, right? So him keeping the Tiger King doesn't do much for him, because I'll just destroy it and I'll attack over it, dealing 1,600 damage, and then using its effect to get Tenki, and then main phase 2 using Tenki's effect to search for I think I searched for another gorilla, which is good, and I shrink the deck enough, so I'll just use Pop Duality, get myself the Dimension Prison, and set that for the protection. Cool, so my opponent has 4 cards in his hand. I'm curious as to what he could do. He normal summons Kabazol. I'm like, oh no, he's gonna crash. And he actually monster reborns my Gene Warp Werewolf. And like, I don't even know what he's thinking right now. Like, it's not a dinosaur. You're not gonna go into Logia. And he actually says, if you see the comments, he forgot to add the Black Ship of Corn. And I was like, okay, cool. Understandable. I guess you could use Black Ship of Corn in order to like remove my bear and deal 1,000 damage without running into deep prison. But instead he goes to Papal Operative, and I'm like, why go for Papal Operative? Go for something maybe with like Utopia, so that even if you don't have to attack, you know, it forces my bear to use the resource of Tenki to like try to get rid of it. And I know he has a back row, so I'm gonna summon Gorilla, see if he has a response, and of course he has Warning. And I'm like, cool, I'll just activate Tenki. Tenki gets me the Dragon. I chose Dragon because I do have another Gorilla in my hand, and I'll attack over you with Bear. And then I'll use Bear's effect to set Tensu. And I'm choosing not to activate it because if I use Dragon next turn and I then activate Tensu, then Dragon's gonna set a 10, the trap one. The trap one. I don't even know what it's called. 10 cent? Yeah, 10 cent. So I normal summon Gorilla, and he chains Torrential, and I chain Starlight Road. And my opponent just cries, and he surrenders. Game 2, I decided not to side in anything because I feel like I had the advantage over him. I do have like the Fire Fist engine, especially with Tenki. I can move the deck faster than him, maybe get into Rabbit faster. So I thought, you know, like it's just a competition of who can summon out their Exceeds faster. And so I start off with a pretty standard move, and I attack him for 1,700 damage, allowing my Bear's effect to activate. And I use Bear's effect to get Tenki. And since I activated Tenki already, I can't activate the other one, and so I'll set 10 Sen and end my turn. You know, a pretty standard play. But of course my opponent has the bane of Fire Fists, which is Heavy Storm. And at this point I really wanted to chain Tensen to my bear, but I misclicked. It's not a misplay, I really misclicked. And I was really angry with myself because I knew he was gonna do something like that, maybe use Drakwaiba or something, right? And then I realized, you know, if you use Lance on my bear, it really makes no difference damage-wise because my Tensen's attack boost would be also negated because Lance is like, you can't be affected by any other spell trap cards. So of course he does the damage, summons another Hedrogeddon, and then he overlays for Logia. And If you look at my hand, I really don't have anything against Lagia, and I draw into the worst card possible, Gene Wolf. So it means that my last Gene Wolf is dead, and means both my rabbits are dead. So I decided to set 2 cards and try to maybe intimidate him, maybe, with my Werewolf. And I don't think he bought it. Or maybe he did kind of buy it. So he normal summoned Sangan, and he played the tech card. And I was like, oh no, cool. Okay, you know what? I'll just chain Space Typhoon. Maybe he'll negate it. Of course, Lagia didn't fall for it. And Lagia is waiting for the other set card. And he attacks over Sangan. Sangan searches for his rabbit. And Lagia is going to attack 2,400 damage. So it's my turn. I really don't have any options. I draw into duality. So I'm like, okay, cool. Dark hole, dark hole. Dark hole, dark hole. And lo and behold, it's not dark hole. And I'm like, okay, he did search for rabbit. So I'm going to go for the bottomless. At this point, maybe I should have like used Monster Reborn, but I didn't use it. I didn't think Lagia would negate it. I hope Lagia would have, but it's a bit of a misplay over here. If I use Monster Reborn, Lagia negates it, and then when he summons Rabbit and he goes for his 2 Sabersaurus, which he will do. Since Lagia negated the Monster Reborn, had I used it, I could have just bottomless both of them. Instead, I use it, and Lagia is going to negate it, and then the 2 Sabersaurus will form second Lagia, which is quite sad. And I really don't have much against their board. As I said, it's like a race of who gets out there exceeds faster, so I surrender. And we go into game 3. In game 3, I decided, you know what, I'm going to side a Max C so that even if you use Lagia, I still have enough cards in my hand, maybe enough resources to try to get rid of it. So I pass my first turn, and my opponent also passes his first turn. And I'm like, cool, okay, cool. That gives me a free pass for Bear. So I'll just normal summon Bear, and then attack, and do all this Fire Fist combo. And then deal some damage, use the effect, search for Tenki, main phase 2, use Tenki, and then, nope, I don't want to chain anything, and use yes, search for another bear. And I learned my lesson. Of course, he's going to have Heavy Storm, and even I have Heavy Storm, so I'm not going to overcommit to the back row. And my prediction was correct, because he did have Heavy Storm. And yeah, he always has Heavy Storm, the bane of Fire Fist. But I also have the bane of Dino-Rabbits, which is Effect Veiler. That's right. And he uses his tech card again. He always gets these cards, right? And I'm like, why would you want to give me a rabbit? Sure, you can attack over it, but like, don't you want it removed? Don't you want to maybe set some back row to protect it, and the next turn use it to go for Sabersaurus? That's just a thought. Why would you take my bear? It's useless to you. And it's my turn. I use a Space Typhoon, and it's a Torrential. And I normal summon Bear, and I activate Tensu, which gives my bear 100 attack over the bear that he stole from me. And I'm going to attack over my bear. No, I don't wish to chain that card. And no, not even during damage step. And of course, I'll use my bear's effect after dealing damage. I'll set Tenki. And then since I know that he doesn't have any more Heavy Storm, and it seems like I need the protection of the lands as well as the bottomless, I'm just going to go all in. Set all of those cards, try to intimidate him, and I wanted to see his graveyard just to check, maybe just to confirm that he had Heavy Storm, and he did. And he normal summons Tour Guide, and it made me question his decisions even more, because you have Tour Guide and Rescue Rabbit. Like, why would you creature swap Rescue Rabbit? Why would you give it to me? Why would you let it go into the graveyard? This is just unfathomable. So he goes for Zen Mains, and I'm like, cool, okay, you can try to stall, I guess. And at this point, I felt pretty comfortable. I mean, he doesn't have any more Tour Guides because he overlaid with both of them, and he already wasted a rabbit which is in his graveyard. There's not much he can do, and so I decided to pass my turn. My opponent draws into a trap and then sets that back row, And I thought, cool. So now I can use Gorilla, pop the back row, and then go for Tiger King, and then negate the effect of Zen Mains and attack over it. That would be pretty cool. That would be pretty plus. And he uses Bottomless, and I'm like, okay, cool. Forces me to use Lance. That's fine. And I decided to go for Tiger King. And here is where it gets a bit interesting, because I could have won so much more easier than what really happened. As you can see, I clicked, okay, so I'm going to use Tenki's effect, obviously, and add another Gorilla to my hand. As you can see, I did click on the Tiger King, right? And I thought I activated the effect to negate the effect of Zen Mains. And then so I foolishly entered Battle Phase, and I'm like, wait, Zen Mains isn't negated. And I'm like, shoot. I have to negate it now because he's just going to attack over it next turn. Or no, attack into it and then detach the material. And I didn't even set the Solemn Judgment because I was so angry at myself for misclicking, and just so frustrating. And he turns Zen Mains into attack mode. I'm like, what are you doing? You know Zen Mains is negated. And of course he has the surprise Lance. Yep, Lance. Which makes me kind of sad because I should have set the Solemn Judgment. And I didn't want to activate Tiger King's effect because I do have Bear and Gorilla, which I can use Tenki and Tensu more wisely. And I draw into Rescue Rabbit, which is sick. And he chains Maxi. I'm like, alright, that's fine with me. Maybe I'll go into something like Shockmaster. So I decided, Gene War Wolf, both of them. And I used Gorilla instead of Bear because I wanted to save Bear in my hand in case, because I do have the 3 Fire Formation spell cards, and I'd rather just like sacrifice a Gorilla from my hand. Okay, so he's going to detach more materials and then attack finally with Gorilla. I thought about using Gorilla's effect, but I didn't want to waste that last area to set because I wanted to set my Solemn Judgment. And I go into Shockmaster. And of course, I call monster effects. Okay, and then I set Solemn Judgment because I wanted to protect this, really want to protect this Shockmaster with everything that I got. And he uses Dark Hole. Like, he has this. He has Dark Hole, he has Heavy Storm, he has Rescue Rabbit, he has Gold Sark, he has, like, the Tour Guide. I mean, how could you not win? How did I manage to win this, last game? I don't even know, right? So, it's lucky that I did. He sets one card and sets another monster. So I'm like, cool, sick. What I'll do is I'll just use Shockmaster's effect and call traps so that you can't activate your back row. And then I'll normal summon Bear. I'll use Bear's effect, get rid of your monster, see if that's enough damage to game. And then I calculated that 1800 plus 2300 equals 41, which is 200 short of what I had to do. So I decided to activate the Tensu just to give my Bear that 100 more attack boost, just in case he normal summons a vanilla, and I don't want to like waste the Bottomless that I've set just to get rid of the vanilla. And he surrenders. I hope you guys enjoyed these matches. I love doing matches nowadays because it's much more informative. And yeah, thanks for watching.